Want to rob a bank and make a clean getaway? How is it done? A man in a painter's uniform casually strolls into the main hall of the bank. He puts down his tool bag and takes out 2 large flashlights, placing them on the counter. His actions don't draw any attention. The man remains calm. He points one flashlight at a camera, then uses the other flashlight to point at another camera. Just like that, he disables all the cameras one by one. Meanwhile, outside, 3 of his accomplices, also in painters' uniforms, carry all the necessary tools and enter the bank together. They then lock the door from the inside. The security guard senses something is wrong. Just as he is about to ask, a handgun in the man's hand is pressed against his back. Everybody get down. Hurry up. Get down. I'll count to 4. If you don't comply, you'll get a bullet. Get away from the counter. Don't press the alarm button. Hands on the floor. In less than 5 minutes, the 4 robbers have taken control of the bank. Whether it's customers doing transactions or bank employees, at this moment, everyone is terrified. The only thing they can do now is to obediently cooperate. Not long after, a police officer passing by sees white smoke coming from the bank. Just as he is about to call for backup, the other man opens the door, sticks his handgun out, and says he has dozens of hostages. If any police officer dares to rush in, he will kill them all. After saying that, he goes back inside, locks the door, and leaves the rest for the police outside to handle. At this point, the first step of their perfect plan is considered a success. Not long after, a large number of police officers have surrounded the bank. A perimeter is quickly established. SWAT teams, patrol officers, all are fully armed and ready for a fight. It looks like a small battle is about to break out. The chairman of the board of Manhattan Trust Bank has also been notified of the incident. Money means nothing to him, but Branch 32 has a special meaning to him. Keith, a negotiation expert, along with his colleague, quickly arrives at the scene. Currently, the situation inside the bank is unclear. Regarding the number of robbers and hostages, the police can only seal off the scene and wait for them to come out and negotiate. Because based on common experience, for the robbers to escape, negotiating with the police is inevitable. At this time, inside the bank, the robbers demand all hostages to gather in front of the vault. Bank employees on one side, customers on the other. Then, they collect everyone's cell phones one by one. When it's the last person's turn, a young man named Peter says he didn't bring his phone today. But how could the robbers believe such a flimsy lie? The leader gives him one chance, telling him not to lie. However, Peter still insists that his phone is really at home. So the leader takes the phones of the other employees and searches through their contacts. Soon enough, he finds the phone number of Peter on another phone. Everyone hears the phone ringing. Peter feels a chill run down his spine. The leader finds the phone in a back room. He then drags Peter in there to make an example of him. After this incident, no one else dares to try anything suspicious. Next, the leader reorganizes the groups, men on one side, women on the other. After everyone is in position, he orders them all to take off their clothes. An old woman cannot bear this humiliation, and would rather die than cooperate. The leader doesn't waste words. He orders his men to drag the old woman out. The remaining people are given identical clothes and masks to wear. With just this simple action, everyone inside becomes a robber. Among them is an old man with a heart condition. The leader doesn't want anyone to die at this point. So, he throws the old man out of the bank. After all, he has plenty of hostages. Losing one doesn't matter. The police outside quickly take control of the old man who was thrown out. Meanwhile, inside, the 4 robbers have changed into identical outfits. They look through the vault door, then go to the storage room. The structure of this room is, for them, absolutely perfect. At this time, Arthur Case goes to see Madeline White. This woman is incredibly resourceful and will stop at nothing, doing anything for money. Arthur's request is simple. Inside the bank being robbed, there's a secret of this secret, whether it's the police or the robbers. No one is allowed to see it. Therefore, he is willing to pay millions of dollars for Madeline to figure out a way to get that item back. Of course, if the robbers are eliminated without the police finding out, that's even better. However, Madeline must be at the scene and have direct knowledge of the situation. Madeline agrees immediately, without hesitation. She believes that in this world, there's nothing that money can't solve. If there is, then it's definitely because the amount of money offered isn't enough. Shortly after, Madeline goes to see the mayor. Because she has leverage on him, she speaks to him without any reservations. Bluntly, she demands that the mayor take her to the scene of the robbery. I want you to take me to the commander so I can participate in all activities. Are you crazy? If you agree to this, we'll call it even. You're such a scoundrel. At this moment, Police Captain John Darius informs Keith that by interrogating the released hostages, they only know that there are a total of 4 robbers and about 50 hostages. The bank is surrounded by numerous snipers and dozens of SWAT officers. Forget about the robbers, even a fly couldn't get out. For now, to ensure the safety of the hostages, they just have to wait for them to come out and negotiate. At most, it will just take a little more time. But, the robbers inside the bank are currently cleaning up the storage room. They don't seem to care about the money at all. The money in the vault? They haven't touched a single bill. After moving the shelves, one of the robbers starts drilling the floor. Are they planning to dig a tunnel to escape? Outside, after some investigation, Keith discovers the car used by the robbers was stolen. The entire camera system inside the bank was destroyed with infrared light. Just when they are at a loss for what to do, another hostage is released. This hostage has a metal box attached to him. The police become extremely tense, especially when they see he is an Arab man. The metal box is quickly sent for inspection to ensure there are no bombs inside. The bearded man is escorted away from the scene by the police. After interrogation, the bearded man provides no useful information. On the other hand, in the metal box, the robbers have written their demands. Prepare 2 buses to transport the hostages. A plane, fully fueled, ready to take off at any moment. These are the robbers' conditions. If the police don't agree or can't comply, they will blow up both the bank and the hostages. Keith's idea is simple. There's no need to talk. Just based on a few sentences written on paper, they want to make demands. No way. We have plenty of time. If it doesn't work, we'll just keep stalling. Let's see who can hold out longer. But not long after, the robbers proactively come out. Both sides understand that at this point, there will be no shootout. They just hand over a piece of paper, on which is written that 50 hostages need to be fed. After handing over the paper, the robbers go back inside the bank. Keith and his colleague quickly prepare a listening device. They want to take this opportunity, using the delivery of food, to overhear what the robbers' plan is. At this time, inside the bank, all the hostages are locked up separately in small groups. There's one man who can't stand the confined and suffocating environment. He says, since they're going to die anyway, why not fight back? The others are scared to death when they hear this. No one wants to be dragged down with him. Just as he is ranting, the leader walks in and drags him out by the leg. People who dare to cause trouble like this must be properly punished. But is this troublemaker one of our own? Not long after, bottled water and pizza have been placed in front of the bank. Keith wants to take the opportunity when they come out to get the food to have a little chat with them. Unexpectedly, the leader says nothing, not giving Keith any chance at all. Back in the command vehicle, everyone is focused, listening to the sound from the listening device. At first they thought it was Russian, then they find a Russian-speaking police officer to listen, but it turns out it's not. Keith has no other choice but to use a megaphone to ask the curious onlookers if anyone understands that language. Very quickly, a construction worker says he knows what language it is. After getting into the vehicle, he says it's Albanian. His ex-wife is Albanian. However, he only knows that it's Albanian. As for the specific content they are talking about, he has no idea. Hearing this, Keith orders a call to be made to the Albanian embassy. After a long wait, they get a reply saying it will take another month to get an interpreter. Keith is extremely frustrated. He forces the man to call his ex. A few hours later, the woman enters the command vehicle. In exchange for clearing over 200 traffic violation tickets, the woman agrees to help them translate. But as soon as she hears the content coming from the listening device, the woman almost bursts out laughing, because the content is a speech by the president of Albania from several years ago, broadcast on the radio. Clearly, the robbers are playing with them, and their prank was a resounding success. During the time that Keith and everyone were wasting their efforts in vain, the robbers were busy. Inside the bank, they were continuously moving the hostages between rooms. After herding the hostages out, the female robber, while pretending to scream, disguises herself as a hostage. This fake hostage is then thrown into a room. The male robber makes a round of the rooms, and then chooses a female hostage from the real ones. This way, all the hostages are blindfolded. Most of the customers didn't know each other to begin with, and now they are randomly shuffled. This makes it impossible for anyone to identify who is a robber. Everyone assumes that the person thrown in is just another hostage. At this time, the leader and his accomplices have found Arthur's exact safe deposit box. The female robber opens the lock with little effort. Inside the box is a secret file. Underneath the file are a dozen bags of diamonds. The value of these items is many times greater than the cash. At the same time, the mayor's car stops in front of the bank. Keith, as the person in charge, gets into the car. The mayor says he wants Madeline to join the operation, but doesn't specify the reason. Keith finds this ridiculous. The woman very firmly tells Keith that if he plays his cards right, his promotion to inspector will no longer be a problem. In a previous case, the missing $140,000 will also no longer be a problem. Faced with such conditions, Keith simply can't refuse. Just like that, time passes until evening. The robbers inside the bank have dug a hole. However, this hole is not for them to escape. It's used as a toilet. While they are admiring their work of art, Madeline asks Keith to call the leader. Who are you? Who I am is not important. What's important is what I can bring you. What can you bring me? You can protect certain interests, and I can give you what you want. Do you work for the bank? No, you're not the police either. Exactly. Come in, Madeline White. With just a few words, she gets the chance to go inside the bank. Actually, the leader also knows she has other motives. The two haggle for a while at the counter. Madeline gets straight to the point. As long as you don't harm the hostages and don't take the money, she will use her connections to ensure the robbers only get a maximum of 3 years in prison. After getting out, they will immediately receive a $2 million reward. This condition is already very generous. Who would have thought the leader would directly pull out Arthur Case's file? It turns out Arthur Case had collaborated with the Nazis, amassed a huge fortune, and opened a bank. If this were to be exposed, he would be considered a war criminal, and his entire family would be ruined. Holding this in his hand, forget about $2 million. Arthur Case would have to pay $20 million, or even $200 million. Madeline, seeing that the file is already in the opponent's hands, understands that her own leverage is not enough to even be a bargaining chip. Continuing to talk would only be humiliating. After coming out, Madeline doesn't say much to Keith. She only says that the robbers will not kill the hostages. The next day, in the command vehicle, Keith finally feels something is wrong. He always thought the police should try to stall for time to be well. But now he feels that from the very beginning, it was the robbers who needed time. They were the ones stalling with the police. For example, the leader's demand for a plane, regardless of whether this request is met or not, the police would have to spend a lot of time dealing with it. The most common tactic is when the robbers ask if the plane is ready, the police will say they are arranging it and to wait. But now it seems the leader just wants to hear the police say that. So Keith decides to make a surprise move. He calls the leader, saying the plane is ready. However, before moving, he must confirm the safety of the hostages. This takes the leader by surprise, but if that's the case, he will give Keith a chance to meet and talk. Keith enters the bank alone. The robbers ask him to check all the rooms. Every time he enters a room, Keith becomes more suspicious. These hostages don't even have any signs of injury. The last room holds the uncooperative hostages. After checking all the hostages, Keith has nothing more to say. The leader is very tight-lipped. The hostages are fine. Prepare the plane. He doesn't mention anything else. This makes Keith angry. He suddenly makes a move, wanting to see what the leader's face looks like. Do you want to be locked up in jail or buried in a grave? You better decide quickly. Have you had enough? You've crossed the line. The bus is parked outside. You think I'm threatening you? Just you wait. Keith's move almost succeeded, but in the end, he gained nothing. The leader and his accomplices return, also breaking out in a cold sweat. They almost had their faces seen by the police. But luckily, it was just a close call. To show his anger, the leader calls Keith. He demands that he adjust the cameras outside to point at the window. He kills a hostage right in front of everyone. An angry Keith rushes to the door again. If any hostage dies, it means his job has been a complete failure. But in his heart, Keith knows very well that the leader's demand for a plane is just a farce. The purpose is just to lead the police by the nose. Your plan is so thorough. You've played us all like a fiddle. You're too smart. You shouldn't be a cop. Get out. Are you going to kill me? Go ahead. You've already killed someone anyway. Go ahead. Facing the enraged Keith, the leader chooses to ignore him. Captain John Darius then also arrives. Because Keith disobeyed orders, he directly suspends him from his duties. From now on, there's no need for negotiations. Keith has been stripped of his command. Then, Captain John immediately plans an assault. Cancel the negotiations? The only option is a shootout, just as they are simulating the combat situation in their heads. Keith, outside, exchanges a few words with the police officer who first arrived at the scene. He suddenly remembers something, and rushes back to the command vehicle. He takes apart the metal box that was brought out earlier. He discovers a listening device inside. In other words, all this time, the robbers have been aware of the police's every move, including the upcoming assault plan. Keith hurriedly stops John Darius, who is about to lead the team in. Meanwhile, inside the bank, the leader also calls his accomplices back, and they begin to act. Finally, the leader throws out a few smoke bombs. Then, the four robbers gather and quickly confirm their plan. They split up, going into each hostage room and ordering everyone out. When all the hostages are out, they also disguise themselves as hostages, blending into the crowd. Outside, a large group of police officers with rubber bullet guns attack the hostages who run out first. The scene immediately descends into chaos. Seeing that the people running out show no signs of attacking, the police restrain them one by one. Then, a large number of police officers rush into the bank, searching every corner, not missing any spot. But what's the result? The vault is intact, not a single dollar is missing. We are still searching. No suspects have been found. No bombs, no tunnels, no sabotage, and no robbery. So let's issue a warrant for a magician. I think you all know very well that if the robbers can't fly or tunnel underground, then they must have blended in with the hostages. With this assumption, Keith finds the robbers' guns in another room. It's a toy gun, not a real gun at all. In the bathroom, they find the murder weapon prop. It turns out the hostage who was killed earlier was also fake. Finally, in the storage room, they find the hostage's clothes. In other words, these four robbers seemingly took nothing and then vanished into thin air. Keith of course cannot accept this result. They interrogate everyone one by one. It can now be confirmed that the robbers are hiding among the hostages. However, through the interrogation process, they find that anyone who seems suspicious has someone else to prove that they were also tied up and right next to them. In other words, the robbers' method of confinement in groups and random room changes has made every hostage appear innocent. Anyone could be a suspect, but everyone has someone else to prove they are not. Since the bank lost no money, and Arthur Case also chose to drop the matter. Most importantly, Keith has no evidence in hand. All the hostages claim to be victims. Each hostage can provide an alibi for another. So the police chief orders the case to be closed. Everyone's hard work was for nothing. But Keith knows how smart the leader is. To go through so much trouble to rob a bank and end up taking nothing is just too ridiculous. So he investigates the bank's information and suddenly discovers that since its founding in 1948, this bank has never had a safe deposit box number 392. It jumps directly from number 391 to 393. As for Madeline, she goes to see Arthur Case, telling him that the file is in the leader's hands. That's what keeps him alive, and also the leverage to blackmail him. However, the file is not the robbers' goal, because they didn't touch the cash. Their target is the diamonds. Arthur knows that the file will not be made public for the time being. Madeline has provided him with some information. Moreover, she now also knows the secret that he colluded with the Nazis. So the multi-million-dollar hush money must still be paid. Holding the check for a huge sum, Madeline leaves satisfied. And what about the leader? He has been in a confined space all along. This place is right behind the shelves in the bank's storage room. First, he drills a hole to use as a toilet. Then, through negotiations with the police, he has them provide enough food and water. Finally, he has his accomplices use the tools prepared in advance to build a perfect barrier wall. The bank cares about money, the police care about the hostages, Arthur cares about the secret file, and what the robbers are after are the Quaalude-sized diamonds. A week passes, and everything has calmed down. The leader pushes open the cardboard box outside, crawling out with a strong stench. At this time, a few of his accomplices, disguised as hostages, are waiting outside the bank. Unexpectedly, they see Keith approaching. The accomplice quickly makes a call, telling the leader that Keith has entered the bank. Knowing the situation, the leader doesn't change his plan. He carries 2 bags and intentionally bumps into Keith. As expected, the leader successfully gets into his accomplice's car. However, he left a small gift for Keith. Inside the bank, Keith investigates safe deposit box 392. After opening the box, he finds inside, besides some chewing gum from the robbers, a huge Cartier diamond ring. On a piece of paper is written, "Follow this ring to investigate." By tracing the diamond ring, Keith finds Arthur. This bank was the first bank Arthur opened. Safe deposit box number 392 in this bank was never recorded, and the diamond ring inside certainly hides some secret of Arthur's. Not just Arthur, Keith also takes the diamond ring to see Madeline. This is the business card of the War Crimes Bureau. Keith, now holding the advantage, doesn't say much. After stating his position, he gets up and leaves the table. War crimes? What kind of trouble have you gotten me into this time? In the evening, Keith returns home. After 2 hard days, finally, he can get a good night's sleep. As he takes off his clothes one by one, he suddenly feels a diamond in his jacket pocket. The movie ends here. Watchability index, 4 stars. The value of a movie lies in its reputation, and the value of a movie review lies in the feeling. Today's story ends here. Thank you for watching. What do you think of this movie? Please comment below.